All right, it is 7 o'clock. Before we get started, if we can just run, if you get your screen open, we'll start with Matt and just run the length. Some of the names I don't recognize or they're just phone numbers.
Matt Zarbo from Barton and LaJudas.
Ken Shear, Mayor.
Where are we?
Everyone's going to show up differently on the screen. It might not be the same order. Ken.
Trustee.
That's Nettie, yeah.
Nettie Moore,
Webb, trustee.
Sorry.
Maybe it's easier if I just, since I got a screen up, I'll just run through if it's okay with everybody. We got Mark Smith, Rick Seiper, Ben Webbs, trustee, Eagle Harrison, trustee. I got John Crandall, village clerk, Jennifer Obert, treasurer. I see Richard. I'm not sure who Richard is. Are you on twice? Are you on with phone and video, Rick, by chance?
He's muted.
You're muted, Rick.
this is smooth.
Okay.
Yes, I'm on twice, myself and the computer.
All right. We have Kyle Borden.
He's with Barton and LaJudas. He's doing recording work in the background.
And Tracy. You're muted, Tracy.
Yes, Tracy Miller.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi.
Andrew Meyerhoffs with Barton and Judas.
Yep.
Joe Calamari, village attorney. Lisa Mertz. I see Mike and Jean Lobaugh. And then I see some phone numbers. I see 753-6086.
Joyce Matthews.
Hi, Joyce. And 753-2013.
John Buxton at the DPW.
Hey, John Buxton. And 269-8319.
Sharon Sneed.
Hey, Sharon. All right, so I think we have everybody accounted for that I can see here at the moment. Somebody may join in, which is fine. I need to go through the trustees and just state your name and that you are aware that you are being recorded. Ken Shear, I'm aware that I'm being recorded.
Nettie Moore, I'm aware I'm being recorded.
Eagle Harrington, I'm aware of being recorded.
Ben Webb, I'm aware I'm being recorded.
Tim, are you on here? Tim Jacobson?
He's still trying to get on, isn't he?
And TJ's trying to get on.
Okay. Let's give him just a couple minutes. Let's go through and do the Pledge of Allegiance while I wait for Tim.
Where's our flag? We have one.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
For which
for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A mess.
And Andrew, are you recording now at this point?
Kyle's recording.
Kyle?
And yes, it's recorded, and I believe he can trim the video if we got to trim out anything.
Are you on the phone with Tim, Jennifer?
No, but Rita just texted me and told me that they were having trouble connecting that they'd gotten disconnected on the phone.
Okay. All right. Oh, I
Somebody
think
just
that might be
joined.
him.
Village foreman.
Tim Jacobson, is that you? 6331?
Yes.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Ken.
How's it going? Glad you made it.
Who's being congratulated for what?
You're being congratulated because you're on.
Well,
Hey,
we didn't get it on video, but,
that's okay.
okay.
And Tim, if you could just please state your name and that you are aware that we are being recorded, please.
Tim Jacobson, village trustee, meeting being recorded.
Thank you, sir. All right, we just did the pledge to the flag. We have department reports. John, I know John Buxton is on with us. John, would you like to say anything about yours?
Not too much to add. We just keep trucking along, doing the best we can.
Well, that's all anybody can ask right now. And I don't think Matt made it on with us, or Dan or Ed, but I know they've submitted all their reports. Jennifer, I know you're on. Would you like to say anything?
I'm good.
Okay. How about Mr. Crandall?
Believe it or not, nope, I'm good.
All right. Hometown Heroes report. Rick, are you going to speak for Hometown Heroes?
I can if you have any questions, or John can too.
Did you all get a chance to look at that? John sent the paperwork out today that Rick had sent over. Did everybody get a chance to look at that a little bit and get an idea of what they got going on? Hopefully everybody took a look at it. And Rick, I assume you said you're going to plan on awarding that Tuesday, next Tuesday. I assume you're going with the lowest bid?
I believe, I haven't looked at all the emails, but yes, in Infinity.
Okay, all right. All right, great. Well, be good to see that moving along.
Thank you, Ken.
That's the,
I'm sorry, Nettie, did you say something?
is that the Veterans Memorial you're talking about?
Yeah,
No.
the Hometown Heroes Veteran Memorial, yes.
Okay. That's a nice idea.
Yeah, it really is. I'm glad to see us moving along. Okay, let's see here. Give me just a minute to get to the right spot.
Did they accept a bid on that?
Just talked about that, Nettie. It looks like Rick said, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, but looks like you guys are going to go ahead and make that decision this coming Tuesday, but you have a pretty good idea who it's going to be.
Correct.
Okay, good. It's a good idea.
Very good idea.
Okay, we're going to move on to the approval of minutes. And Rick, thank you for submitting that to us. I appreciate it very much. And resolve to approve the minutes of the organizational regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Mayville held on April 21st, 2020, with no additions or corrections.
I'll move it.
Ben?
Second.
Nettie? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Secondly, we have a resolution to award the fuel bid for fiscal year 2021. Resolved to award the fuel bid for fiscal year 2020-21 to TPS Supply Corporation, 1820 Route 20, Post Office Box 287, Silver Creek, New York, 14136. The lowest qualified bid received. Copies are attached.
I'll move it.
Eagle?
I'll second.
Ben? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. And that's going to bring us to Barton and LeJudas. They're going to give us an update on the water project.
I'm going to share my screen here. I know, Tim, you're not going to be able to see it, but you'll at least be able to hear my words.
Okay.
So as me and Andrew, who both have had done a lot of work for the water project, a little bit of agenda. What I want to go over is kind of the project background and our project goal review. I know some board members are new from when this project started, so I always think it's a good idea to, I believe we did one presentation for everybody on this board right now, but it's a good idea to remind everybody of how this got started and what our goals were. Then I'm going to update you on the project status, project budget, some of the additional work remaining that we hope to do by change order, and some of the suggested next steps. So project background. The project started with an engineering study in 2017 that was completed in August, and the study essentially reviewed the current state of the water system and identified several deficiencies that the water system had, as well as recommended various improvements. And the major goals of the project was to upgrade antiquated infrastructure, which water mains, water meters, storage tank. In the original study, we identified several critical areas of water mains that were at highest risk, experienced the highest number of breaks. Not every antiquated water main was identified because replacing every water main in the village would not necessarily have been cost feasible. We are going to try to increase water pressure near the storage tank. There are several houses near the storage tank, being only a 50-foot tank. They were getting inadequate pressure. It was impacting how your operators had to operate the system. And we were going to replace an existing well, which is well number 2 down at the Morris Street, the DPW garage, that was subject to surface water influence. Basically, based on its construction, it could flood at certain times, and the water would turn to surface water because it would touch things it wasn't supposed to touch, like the valve vault above it, and then drain back into the well. So it was declared groundwater under the direct influence of surface water, and the Department of Health basically mandated that it be taken out of the service in the future. Since it being declared that, John and Dan have come up with ways to prevent that from happening. But the replacement of the existing well is still a critical component, because during some dry years, like I believe the summer of 2016, the village has had to issue water conservation notices because the water wells would be depleted, levels in the wells would be depleted so much that they're at risk of running out of water. So we ended up submitting the report to the state and receiving a great funding package. The project budget was $6.452 million. This was the maximum amount the village could spend based on a bond resolution. We can't spend over that amount without getting, redoing a bond resolution. The project received a 60% grant that was capped at $3 million and 0% financing for the non-grant portion. So $3.452 million at 0% financing over 30 years, and a 60% grant for $3 million covered the rest. This equated to an approximately $11.45 monthly increase to the water bill to do a $6.452 million project with all the improvements that we discussed in the report. Again, when we set budgets in reports, we always set the maximum budget. So we should always come underneath budget. I mean, it doesn't always work that way, but the hope is to be conservative. So at the end of the day, your project's less, so you don't have to redo a bond resolution and go back through some of that legal process. The figure to your right is essentially just some of the improvements that we were originally talking about. When you can see that big up in the northern section, which is off of the end of Maple Drive East, you can see that big area, which is where we were going to originally look for groundwater and where we've essentially located groundwater, which I'll get to a little later. So project status update. Last year, we bid out contract number 1, which was water mains and storage tank, and it's currently about 75% complete of what has initially been authorized. The scope of this project included the replacement of the water storage tank and several water mains throughout the village. No well site work was included in this contract. And basically, we didn't have enough information to include it in this contract. And it was always intended to do the wells behind the main and the tank. Basically, it's because we had the information to do the mains and the tank, and the wells, we have to do a lot more testing and pump testing and water quality testing. So that portion of the project was going to lag behind. Our opinion is the contractor's not perfect, but he's been very good, and he's done a good job. They've been good to work with, and they haven't really tried to, cut corners on construction for the most part. So, we've been pretty satisfied with the contractor. Contractor provided fairly inexpensive bid pricing. They were 9% cheaper, about $290,000 cheaper than second place contractor, and overall has been reasonable to deal with. And any project where you're digging up a lot of ground, you're always going to come under unforeseen things that, the only way to know it's there is to dig it up. And, once the contractors come across those things, they've been very reasonable to deal with and have provided reasonable pricing for changes that nobody could know about. Project budget update. Now, this is kind of an overall, it's actually called a Form E, and it's a way that some funding agencies use to track project budget. And I've kind of modified it, and I'll get into some of the text that's small, but the big news is the project is under budget, and the village is able to complete more work than originally anticipated. And that will likely come in the event, in the form of more water main replacement, stuff that we didn't think we could originally afford without getting the project price out of control. And this is great news. And it's due to a variety of things. But if the column on the left, the first column, which is the current budget, and the second column is the projected final cost. Those are my projections based on pricing that we've received to date and estimates of what we have left to do. So diving down into some of the more detailed items one is our engineering. Right now, for those who weren't involved in approving our engineering contract, the way it worked was we provided lump sum pricing for things with a very well-defined scope, like designing of the water main. We knew exactly in the storage tank. We knew exactly what we had to do. It's very, very cut and dry. It's things that we do all the time. We can budget for that accurately, so we provide a lump sum. We provide time and expense services for things we can't control as much. That's your construction administration. If you get a bad contractor, you could spend considerable amount of time dealing with a contractor, which gets costly. If on the well site, if we keep looking and looking and looking for water, you spend considerable amount of time, trying to find water that may or may not be there. And then we provided also what's called a subcontract service allowance. So when we actually do the contract, there's certain services that we budget for, but we only charge the village what's actually cost because we sub those out. Those are our soil borings, survey, well drilling, things that aren't directly done by us. And we want to make sure we account for them with the appropriate budget. But at the end of the day, the time and expense in the subcontractor service allowance, if we don't use the money, we don't take it. The village just doesn't pay it out, and our contract at the end is reduced. And we usually budget high on those, and in this case we did budget high on those amounts. And I think we're going to come in about $200,000 under budget. So at the end of this contract, we will do an amendment to reduce our contract by 200,000. So we haven't been paid it, and we won't be paid it. We'll just make the final contract number match the final and the actual contract number match. Now, part of the reason we were able to save so much on time and expense surveyor is services is we got lucky and we're able to locate a local person to do the construction inspection work, and he's willing to work only as needed and part-time. So that's not normal when you need a full-time inspector. Usually people, you know, in that industry, it's their full-time job. They're not someone who you can tell work today, but don't work tomorrow, work 4 hours Thursday and 2 hours Friday. Usually it's kind of like they're in or they're going on unemployment. They're 40 hours or not. So to have a full-time inspector, you have to hire someone full-time. So it saved us quite a bit of money finding a local inspector for the project. Oops.
Just so the board knows, Matt, you're talking about Paul, correct?
Paul, yes, Paul Fisher. So that was a good. It's saving a lot of money, and it's worked out very, very well. I'm happy with him, and it seems like John and Dan are happy with them. And then if you look the next box down, you'll see our current contract with JD Northrop, who's a contractor, and then it'll show four different additional items. I think now is a good time to say one of the reasons we've saved so much on construction is because the DPW has done so much in-house. They've built that building at the tank site, you know, building that. When you do that under prevailing rate and under this type of contract, for a building that only, you know, privately, you know, maybe 20,000, 10,000 to build, they'll charge you $75,000 for it. It's just the way these type of contracts work, and the prevailing rate just kills municipal projects. So the village taking that on, as well as replacing water meters, which save an easy few $100,000, taking on some of that work from your DP, and it has allowed us to hopefully do more main replacement to help your DPW out, especially in some of these areas where they don't have the tools or the right equipment to do things like under creeks and everything like that. So we're going to get more into the change orders, but if you look on the left side, again, is our current, and the right side is our projected future. We didn't have a few items in there, like replacement of additional water main that wasn't originally budgeted for $740,000. We're doing a lot more water main, or we can do. The board has to vote to approve it. The tank will need a light installed on top of it. This is going to be mandated per the FAA. And then there's some additional well site work, which I'm going to get into more detail on. We don't have final prices on that, but I'm estimating on the high side at $300,000. And then, you know, we do have to decommission well too, which we don't have final costs on that as well. But overall, based on the current budget, if we only did what was in the current scope, you know, you'd have a contingency of about $840,000, basically excess money of $840,000. Now I'm projecting for you to have a contingency with approving all those items that we're going to talk about today, still $440,000, which means if the village wants to do additional work, additional main replacement, you know, anything I know at one point they talked about adding VFDs or additional well site, that type of items, there's still room to do that if so desired. So I'm going to go through the additional work remaining real quick, and we've done it in 3 different change orders. So one of the reasons we're doing this as a change order and not as bidding it out, we could bid it out, but at the end of the day, it's our feeling it would be cheaper for the village to do these items as change orders because, one, we already have decent bid pricing. So things like main replacement and whatnot, we already can compare their pricing on their existing contract to what their requesting in a change order. And their change order pricing is very, very similar. It is a little increased, and those increases are justified as, ductile iron piping pricing has considerably gone up since this project's bid. So there is justifications for the items that they've increased. We think you have the pricing that they've provided is competitive, and we do not think if you bid it out, you'll get anything better. And then you'll have to pay additional engineering and additional attorney fees and everything for reviewing a new contract, for setting up a new contract, more project meetings, more coordination. So some of your soft costs will definitely go up if we try to tackle this as a new contract. So since the contractor's been doing a good job, they've given us good pricing, we think the most cost beneficial way to the village is to award these projects, these additional items as change orders. So change order 4, again, we don't have final cost for the well site yet, but I project it to be less than $300,000. A new light to the top of the tank would be just under $12,000, and then additional water main replacement at $740,000. So lastly, I just want to state is if there is more work and there is more need, it's 0% 30-year financing for any additional work. So that $440,000 that we still will have left over after we do this stuff, if there is need, 0% 30-year financing is a pretty good deal. So change order 4, this is the well site. We've completed plans. We're waiting on contact pricing, but we anticipate it to be less than $300,000. The DPW is still going to do most of the building work in-house, and that's budgeted for. This is saving a lot of costs. This is opening up more money that could potentially be spent on other items. But I wanted to I think it's important for the board to understand the groundwater source we found and how we're kind of proceeding with this. So there's no misconceptions about what we found. So we drilled 5 test wells. 4 test wells and 1 was a boring, but it was still 5 different drills that produced, and only 1 of those wells produced promising results. And that's located off the end, actually in the town of Chautauqua, just inside on a property the village recently purchased, which is contiguous with the village, but it's in the town of Chautauqua, just on that side off of Mayville Drive East. And we call this well number 4, and it produced over 200 gallons per minute. It's about 235 to 250, and it's enough water to service the village. Now, the great thing about this well is it's located in a different aquifer than what the current village wells are. So if where your current wells are, they're all located in close proximity. If that water source depletes, this water source, which is on the other side of the village, obviously, down the center of the village is that big ridge. On the other side of that ridge, this well water source might not be affected. If your current water source becomes contaminated with something, this water source is going to be separate and may not be contaminated. So this is a huge, being in a different aquifer is actually a really good thing for the village. The water quality is fairly similar to the existing Mayville water quality, but the water is hard, like the existing Mayville. It's actually right in the middle between your existing wells of the hardness, so you're not going to notice much of a difference in water quality. And the water is safe for human consumption, but it did have a couple problems. One, it was slightly high in iron, but it did not have a noticeable iron taste or color. So one of the things we have to do is add a sequestering agent to sequester the iron. And basically what that means is keep the iron in solution so it doesn't come out in the wash, and it doesn't come out, you don't taste it. That type of situation. But we will be required to do that on this well, which is very simple to do. It's just dosing it with another chemical, which actually has the added benefit of controlling corrosion in your distribution system. The second The second issue is there's a calcium issue. So calcium is hardness. So the water, I mean, your water's hard. Many of you may have water softeners. Some of you might notice like a staining on your dishes or a white stuff on your laundry. That's calcium. That's hardness in the water. It's completely safe. But what happens is it precipitates out. It comes out of solution. What's happening with the new well is the water is extremely clear after pumping. They measure the cloudiness of water, the clearness of water in a thing they call turbidity. And turbidity is just how cloudy the water is. So that the water is almost absolute, the clearest it can be right after it's pumping, but over time, the turbidity increases. And it's kind of a phenomenon called whitening is what they actually call it. And it increases the level where it's just over the maximum turbidity limit set by the Department of Health. Now, usually turbidity is assigned for other things. That's why Department of Health sets a limit. In this case, the turbidity is caused by calcium. There is no calcium limit. The water is safe to drink. It's just the hardness coming out of the water is what's going on. So we talked to the Department of Health, and they will likely allow well number 4 to be used. They have not approved it yet. We'll try to get them to approve it if the village wants to move forward with it. Now, we tried to control the turbidity of the water by dosing it with a similar chemical that would be used to sequester iron, but it didn't work in a laboratory setting. It may work in the field because, and how we had to do it with a lab, there's a slight lag between the water being pumped and dosing the chemical. Now, what we're requesting from the Department of Health is essentially for this well to be used as, to provide about 10% of the village water on a regular basis, and then as much as needed in an emergency situation. I think they will accept it because of what the turbidity comes from. I do encourage board members to, when it's safe, to meet up with John Buxton. He has a, if we were doing this at a board meeting, I would have had him bring it. He actually has some of the water from the well. At first glance, if the water was sitting on the desk, you wouldn't notice anything wrong with the water as far as how cloudy it is. You only really can see it if you take the water and you hold it up to light, and then you can kind of see, oh yeah, there is a little cloudiness in it. It's not like things settle out of the water. If you had it in a glass, you'd wind up with a bunch of white things settling out. It's not like that. The turbidity the water is still very, very clear. It's still a very good source of water. It's just something that we need to make the board aware of what is happening in this well. Again, the well hardness, the calcium in the water is really no different than what you already drink and what you already are accustomed to. It doesn't have a taste for those who tasted it, different than the water that you have, but it does have a couple of these nuances that are not concerning from a health point of view, but they should be brought to light so that you guys understand exactly the water quality coming out of the well. Change order 5 is essentially to add a light to the water tank. With the height of the water tank in the little airport outside of Mayville, the FAA wants a light. And the cost to add this light is $11,693.69. I had estimated before the contractor gave us the price between $10,000 and $12,000. The light itself is nearly $6,000. It comes with a special panel and a photo eye, and there's a special bracketing that needs to be installed to the top of the tank. Overall, I think this is fair pricing. When the contractor already had to run electrical conduit up to the top of the tank for a mixer, they're just going to run another conduit for this light if this change order is approved. Change order 6 is for additional water main replacement, which is a price tag of $740,000.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second before you go? I'm back on number 5 real quick. Can you back up? Is it a problem for you to back up on that screen again? One more, I believe. Yeah, halfway down that sheet, it says DOH will likely allow well number 4 to be used, but not yet approved. We don't know that for sure?
We don't know, and the plan is to, if you guys approve this change order tonight, I will send it to the Department of Health. And we've talked to the local level, the state level, they've tried to talk to, but with coronavirus, there's been some delays. So obviously they're dealing with something a little more important, but I think things are starting to settle down and we're starting to see things come back. So the state, I've had conference calls with Bill Boria and Paul Schneider of the Chautauqua County Health Department, and they're gonna deal with the state as well as us. And I think they will approve it. Now approving this change order, the contractor won't be released to do any work or any money to be spent on this until the state approves the use of well 4.
Okay, that's really what I was trying to get at. Yes, thank you.
So change order 6, it's additional water main replacement. So since the projects come in significantly under budget, and the village is a great financing package, and there's still additional main that could be replaced with a high recent number of breaks, as well as there's stream crossings and whatnot that the village is concerned about because they would struggle to repair in-house and they don't have a drill like the contractor does. We essentially worked with the village to DPW to identify these additional sections and have designed it up and priced it up. And that's what it came in at. The pricing, the $740,000 is broken down in paperwork that was sent to you guys. In our opinion, the pricing is fair. It's similar to the existing unit pricing. It's just more of what they've been doing. And with the funding package that you have and the financing, the grant and financing package, we do think it would be recommended to move forward with these additional sections. Obviously, your village DPW could speak to these sections and some of the issues that they've had with the recent number of breaks. It's a problem that won't go away. Other work that we have to do is decommission well number 2, and then you will have extra project budget, so it's up to you if you want to spend it. Not spending if all these change orders are approved, not spending the $440,000, and we'll save about $1.85 per user per month is what that would come down to. But 0% 30-year interest is a great deal, so I would definitely encourage the village, if there's additional needs, to try to get them approved under this project, because this is a once in a 30-year funding package. The reason you've got such a great project is what you see on the screen, the 2 pictures, is this well needs to be decommissioned and was declared greedy, which gave this project a ton of points and really allowed you to do so much other work that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to do if you didn't have this one health and this potential health and sanitary problem. So suggested next steps from our eyes is, and then we'll, have discussion. You guys can ask me any questions you want, but we would recommend to approve the mayor to sign change order number 4 for a cost not to exceed $300,000. This will likely come in yet less. The contractor, I spoke with him again today. I'm expecting pricing by the end of the week, but it's something that when the pricing comes in, which I think it'll be less than $300,000 again, I want to be able to have the mayor sign it so we can submit it right to DOH for approval. And this change order will be subject to New York State DOH approval. Again, we would recommend change order 5 for the light to be approved and change order 6 for the additional water main to be approved. And again, all these change orders, money would not be spent until DOH, because DOH, not only are they approve it from a health and sanitary aspect, they approve it from a funding aspect. They deal directly with the funding agency, and if they approve it, the funding agency approve it. They're kind of all in one. And then lastly, it's to identify any additional water system needs that the village would like to explore. Again, I think there's maybe $400,000 to $500,000 left. I was conservative with some of these budgets. I have the well house building, $75,000 for the village to buy materials and put it up, as well as $75 grand for them to extend electrical down there. There's a good chance they don't spend that all. Excuse me. So, and our engineering could come more than 200,000. I'm conservative in my numbers. I think it's important to be conservative so we never go over this $6.452 million number. But you know, I think there's $400,000 to $500,000 available if there's additional work. Now's the time to try to get it involved in the project. So that's all I have for you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Hey, John Buxton, are you still on?
Yes.
Hey, do you, when looking at these change orders, do you have any comments or questions or concerns in any of the change orders?
No, I think we should move ahead with them.
Okay.
Ben, I did, on all these change orders, me and John and Dan keep in pretty good contact, and I sent them plans to look over and we've coordinated with them on the design of these things to make sure they're satisfied with it.
Okay.
And John,
Thanks,
I'd like to thank you and your crew, because I tell you what, if you go through all this stuff and look at it item by item, there's a lot of stuff you guys have done that I know a lot of municipal places either couldn't do or wouldn't do on their own to save us a lot of money and allow us to go forward with more projects than planned without spending any extra money. And I can't tell you how much we as a board, and I'm sure your residents appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, John, we're lucky to have you doing what you're doing. You're doing a phenomenal job of putting us in a position to be in a very good position as a village, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
I have a question. When they put the tank up, why didn't they think about this light when we were speccing out the tank to start with?
So originally, when we first talked about the project, we were going to do a booster pump station, and there was going to be a 50-foot tall tank, and it was going to be a pump station to service the area. But after talking with John, they strongly preferred not to deal with a pump station, and we told them, well, we could put up an additional tank, and it actually was going to cost more money, which was already figured in this budget that we had. So I said we could put up additional tank. It's going to be another, I think it was like $150,000 or $200,000 to put up the additional tank. And you know, it would be a 100-foot tall tank, and then we have to install some pressure reducing valve pits. So that was the decision that's made. So usually this type of thing comes out during the seeker process, but when we went through the seeker process, we didn't have this tall tank. So it wasn't commented on from the FAA, and when we put up the tank, until the FAA found out, essentially, they were, you know, they didn't comment on during the normal environmental review process, so then it came up. Again, the major cost in that change order, whether you include it originally or not, is not going to change the fact that the contractor would have just charged that much more for the project. They still would have had to run electrical up there. They still would have had to purchase a $6,000 light. There's not much of a cost savings whether it's included at the start or now.
Anyone else have any questions for Matt while he's here?
I think I have a question, Nettie Moore, trustee, because this is new to me. I was not on the board at the time. Originally, the original bid didn't include these extra things. I understand it. But because we came in under budget, it would be wise to get this done because we have extra money. And we also get 0% financing. Is that correct?
Correct. Some of this stuff, Nettie, was going to be done under a second contract, where we were going to actually pull together a second contract. But because two reasons. One, that we were happy with the village contractor, and then the village went and they're building the well house in-house and doing a lot of the work in-house. We are asking to do it per change order because we think it'll be cheaper for the village. So like the well site isn't an extra from the original project. That was always included. It's just, it wasn't bid out yet because we didn't have the information. And now we'd like to do it as a change order instead of getting another contractor involved. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Those to me.
Yeah, and we have the extra money, so that's gonna be okay. Yeah, yeah. Mhm. That light's kind of interesting, $11,000. Yeah, you ought to be able to see Mars.
Yeah, it's because it's operated. There's actually a whole control panel that operates. It turns one color during the day, one color during the night, and there's like it's a pretty smart light.
Yeah,
There's an
that's
alarm
bad.
system they can hook up. So yes, I was surprised at the original cost, but when I started finding out, and we do our own due diligence on behalf of the village to actually get pricing for manufacturers on these pieces of equipment, so we know when the contractor gives us a price if they're marking it up too much. And I told John before we ever got a price back, I said it's going to be 10 to 12,000, and he was shocked too, and came in right in the middle of that. So it's no surprise. It was a surprise to me at first when I figured out how much the light was.
Well, that's just a drop in the bucket according to the rest of this, but
Oh
you know,
yeah, I know, but
I thought it was funny. I have
if
a question
you
for
don't watch
John.
every dollar, then it turns into hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you still got to watch the small expenses.
Right.
Hey, John, or Ken,
John Buxton, are they gonna put, what? He quit. No,
Are you saying something nice?
I have a question for John Buxton.
Okay.
No?
no.
Yeah,
He's
go
there.
ahead.
Hey, Johnny, I just wondered, do you have a water mains down Maple Drive West?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Okay. Okay. I just wondered because, a lot of that's new and I didn't know how far the water went, so.
Actually,
Okay, that's it.
part of change order 6 is to replace down
Or-
Maple Drive West further because some of that piping was pretty bad piping. I think they got a bad batch of piping.
Yeah, Bill's down
originally
at the bottom there, John.
Yeah. Yeah, it keeps breaking right in front of his house there quite often.
Yeah. That's why I'm checking. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Does someone else have a question? I heard somebody start to ask a question.
What? I can't hear you.
Any more questions for Matt?
I'll cancel that, Ken. No.
I don't know how to.
Right. Thank you, Matt.
No problem.
All right, let's see here. That's going to bring us to the resolutions for the change orders. Resolve to approve the mayor to sign and forward a copy of change order number 4 of the Mayville Water Project in the amount not to exceed $300,000 to develop well number 4 of the Village of Mayville Water Project number 18520.
Oh,
Copy
so
attached.
I don't have to push anything. Okay.
I'll move it.
Ben,
Second.
Tim, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Give me just one sec to get to the next one here. Resolution for change order number 5, tank light. Resolves to approve the mayor to sign and forward a copy of change order number 5 of the Mayville Water Project in the amount of $11,693.69 to add a light to the top of the new water tank as mandated by the FAA of the Village of Mayville Water Project number 18520, copy attached.
I'll move it.
Was that Ben?
Yes.
Second.
Tim?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution for change order number 6, additional water main replacement. Resolved to approve the mayor to sign and forward a copy of the change order number 6 of the Mayville Water Project in the amount of $740,235 for additional water mains to be installed not originally included in the scope of the project of the Village of Mayville Water Project number 18520. Copy is attached.
So
I'll
moved.
move it.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
I'll move it.
Ben?
Yes.
Second.
Tim?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. This brings us to budget transfers. Resolved to approve the following budget transfers. Increase AO 7140.400 park expense other by $3,000 and AO 8160.100 refuse collection salaries $1,000. Decrease AO 1990.400 contingent $4,000.
I'll move it.
Eagle?
Yep.
Second.
Tim?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Paying of the bills. Resolved to approve payment of bills for abstract number 12 as follows.
Everybody sign up.
General fund, $112,367.55. Water fund, $63,311.97. Electric fund, $163,782.96. Capital water, $25,286.50. Be it further resolved that the following transfers to savings and checking are included in these totals. General fund, $25,000 to savings. Water fund, $50,000 to savings. Electric fund, $50,000 to savings. And electric depreciation, $2,083.83 to savings.
So moved.
Tim?
Second.
Ben?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. That motion is carried. I have a question from Lisa Mertz. Let me get to it real quick. Lisa says that she'd like to ask about whether the floating stage will be permitted to open this summer. And it is concerning to her that we've had our first COVID case in this part of the county, which I agree, we're doing such a good job with it. But to answer your question, as far as the floating stage, we really don't know. At this point, nothing here is opened. So it's really going to depend a lot on what the governor tells us. If you saw in today's report, it's hard to read when they're really open up anything. So I'm not really sure what kind of answer to give anybody and when anything's going to open or if. So I don't know. I'll keep your email though, and definitely if we do know something, I'll let you know in case you don't see it in the news.
We have a question about 4th of July.
Tim, yeah.
It's come to our, I mean, not to our attention, but we've been working on this for quite a while, and we can't find out what direction to go for sure. So I guess we have to go to cancellation.
What does the village board think of carrying on with the celebration in any way, shape, or form? That's the question.
Did you get that, Ken?
I did. Well, I'd be wrong if I told you I wasn't disappointed if we didn't have it. But in the world we're in today, I definitely understand what you're talking about. You know, we go on these calls with the county a couple times a week with what the other mayors and supervisors are doing, and I think we were the last holdout for the 4th of July. Most of them have already canceled everything for that. So I do understand your decision.
Well, what we would like to do, if at all possible, if no other, like a parade and concessions at the park, If none of those people were there, could we still shoot off the fireworks?
If you asked me that question, I would say yes, but again, and we don't know yet, but that'll depend on where we're at with crowds of people, I'm sure, because that's going to cause a crowd of people, obviously. And if we're not allowed to do that yet, that's going to put us in a spot where we can't. So I'm not sure how long would you be able to make that. How long could you hold off before making that decision final?
I haven't talked to our fireworks guy in 3 weeks, so I don't have a definite answer. I can find out.
All right, that might be a good place to check. I'm assuming they're probably not overwhelmed with extra business this year, but it'd be worth an ask to them just to find out where you guys stand with them as far as making a decision.
Hey, Tim, it might also be a good idea for you guys to maybe have a conversation with CLA. And if your fireworks people are willing to do it, use the barges from the CLA and be out in the northern basin of the lake. And then that way you're not, you're not on land where people are trying to be on land and creating a crowd, but people have the entire shoreline of the entire lake to be spread out and social distance and be responsible in that way. But you still at least have the fireworks. I don't know that works, but it might be interesting in exploring.
Yeah, that's something we've already explored a couple times at least, and there's never a decision made.
Might be a way to continue a long
give us
tradition.
time to give us time to call Matt, and we'll get back to Ken, and I might be able to get him tonight. I don't know.
Okay, that'd be great, Tim. And like I say, whatever you and your board decide to do, we're gonna back you. It's a little different year. We know that we're all itching to have something normal happen. So it'd be great if it did. But I understand either way. So.
Okay, great.
And thanks for continuing to put on an awesome celebration for 4th of July. That's always much appreciated.
Thank you. You're going to bring a tear to my eye.
Well, it's important.
No, I believe it. I mean it. I believe most of the people just think this stuff happens.
Yeah.
No,
we know
most
better.
certainly it is not. I appreciate everything you guys do because I know how much work it is. It takes all year to plan that, and I know it. And I'm for those of you who did not get the email today, Doug Clark had called. They are canceling the Celtic Festival in August. They are hopeful that they will have, and I'm sorry, he gave me the name of it. There's a smaller festival that they're allowed to have in that Highlanders group in October, if it's possible then. So they may be coming back to the board asking for a smaller festival in October.
Okay.
I think a lot of their concern was the fact that they had to spend a lot of money up front and were afraid of not having any of it refundable if they got to a point where they had to cancel. Anything else for the good of the order here? Hey guys, I really appreciate everybody joining us. I miss the days of going down at the Carlson Center and talking to you all before and after the meetings, and I'm hoping we'll get back to that soon. I'm glad we got one of these under our belt, so we got a little experience with this, and hopefully we won't have to do one again. But if we do, we're ready for it.
Yeah, if you guys need one, again, whether we have something on the agenda or not, B&L is more than happy to help you guys set this up and record it and use our staff to help you guys work through it.
Thanks, Matt. And I appreciate Andrew, Kyle, all you guys. I appreciate your help. You guys have been great to work with through this whole thing since day one when Matt walked in on a cold call, basically, to get this stuff rolling, and it worked out great.
Thank you.
I mean, we're making you guys all millionaires too. I understand that, but still, you know.
not me. I wish.
Isn't that how that works, Matt?
Yeah.
All that money just goes right in your pocket. It doesn't go
yeah, exactly.
paying contractors or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Ken, Eagle Harrington.
Hey, Eagle.
Hey, I was just wondering, have we decided on the park program yet?
We have not. I talked to a couple other villages about their park program. They're kind of in the same holding pattern that everybody else is. I don't know if we'll get any new news, but we have our meeting tomorrow night. That's on the agenda tomorrow night, and I will definitely get a hold of you guys on Thursday and let you know what comes of it, if anything. At this point, we're just waiting to hear what the governor says. Number one, and number two, how everybody's all set to handle it here. Which depending on where we're at, even if we do open it up, we may have to do some measures that we don't usually do, which may play a part in that also. But
And Eagle, just for clarification, you're specifically talking about the youth program, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So I will let you know on Thursday what's said about it tomorrow, if that helps us at all, and we'll kind of going from there and making a decision before too long. I don't think we need to make one yet, but we're coming up on it.
I just
Thank
know
you.
normally we'd be finding people and stuff like that pretty
Right.
soon. So.
Yeah, Memorial Day weekend is coming up in under 2 weeks.
Any questions from anyone else? I'm looking for a motion to adjourn then.
I'll move it.
I'm sorry, I
Second.
lost who that was. Was it Ben?
Yeah.
Ben and Nettie?
Yep.
Motion to adjourn. Meeting is adjourned.
Yes.
Thank you all so much. And stay safe out there.
All right. You as well. Thanks, everybody.